So between the age of 17 to 23, I sold sex 4 or 5 times a week.
But buying sex, it's a shameful crime.
Die machen ja Geld.
They make money doing it, so you can't say much against it, and people are up for it.
Die Leute haben Bock.
Should prostitution be allowed? Sweden's answer to this question has been entirely different than Germany's. In which country is the situation better for the women involved? We explore this question in Sweden and Germany. Hamburg's St. Pauli neighborhood in Germany, home to the Reeperbahn and its red light district. Here, sex work is seen as business as usual, especially by men.
Here goes with the territory. I wouldn't be able to stand it if my sister did it. Then I'd see red.
Die machen ja Geld.
They make money doing it, so you can't say much against it. And people are up for it.
Leute haben Bock.
In St. Pauli, sex is a tourist attraction that draws people from around the globe. There are even guided tours of the so-called most sinful mile.
Here in St. Pauli, there's prostitution and brothels, mainly over there on Große Freiheit, Great Freedom Street, and the western part of the Reeperbahn. Strip clubs in St. Pauli also double as brothels. If you were to sit down for a beer, it wouldn't take long before someone offered you a room with a dancer.
Prostitution is legal in Germany. The goal of the country's liberal legislation, which has been in effect for over 2 decades, was to help the women involved. Legalizing sex work would give them access to services like health care and unemployment insurance. But it's had other consequences too. Many people from abroad now travel to Germany to buy sex, including from women who don't sell sex of their own free will. Like Teresa, who comes from Africa. Out of fear for her baby and her family, she wants to remain anonymous. She was brought to Germany by smugglers. Teresa tells us she owes these human traffickers 60,000 euros. And that she's supposed to earn the money on the streets as a prostitute.
The traffickers have a greedy nature and want more and more money, no matter what the girls go through. I have never imagined me on planet Earth doing such a job. If I have sexual intercourse with a man, it should be because of love, and not because of money, no.
To pressure her, the human traffickers even separated her from her baby.
That night they held my child from me. They pushed me and locked me on the veranda. They said since I'm so stubborn and don't want to go to the streets, I have to be there. As a mother, I heard my child crying inside. She cried, cried and cried, and then she fell asleep. At 1 a.m. at night, they opened the door for me again to come back inside.
Teresa had been promised a regular job in Europe. Too afraid to turn to the authorities, she went underground instead. Forcing women into sex work is a punishable offense in Germany. But Teresa tells us her story is not unique.
Most women don't like it at all. If they would like it, they would have started it back home. But it's only when they get here that their eyes are opened and they understand what they have to do to pay back the money. And now they are always threatening my parents back home and many of my siblings that they are going to kill them.
There are about 30,000 officially registered sex workers in Germany, but it's thought that the number of unregistered and illegal sex workers is around 10 times higher. Women's rights activist Nora Evers says Germany has degenerated into Europe's brothel. In her eyes, the German model has failed.
With its liberal legislation, Germany is simply supporting a system that effectively exploits and denigrates women and turns them into commodities. One that gives sex buyers and men the right to simply buy sex with a woman around the corner for €30.
In Germany, the call for stricter laws is growing ever louder.
In the end, you need to ask yourself, what's more important to us? The right for a small group to engage in prostitution, or should we perhaps instead devote our efforts to the broad masses, who are often really being exploited in inhumane conditions?
For Evas, Sweden is a role model when it comes to its approach on regulating prostitution. What's known as the Nordic model is finding more and more supporters in Germany. Helsingborg on Sweden's southwest coast. Matthias Löw is on his way to an undercover assignment. He's a police officer responsible for tracking down people buying sex in his hometown.
People buy sex, like 24/7, but we can also see an increase or a spike during, lunch hours and just when people get off work, between maybe 4 and 6. So they buy sex before they go home to their families. So now we have a few addresses that we're going to check out.
In Sweden, buying sex is a criminal act. To catch potential buyers, Löw monitors websites sex workers use to offer their services. They're often from abroad.
Usually from the old East States, Romania, and then South America and Africa.
For Löw and his colleagues, the sex workers are simply witnesses. Only those buying sex are prosecuted.
It's like, these old...
In 2022, over 1,000 people were caught in Sweden. This is the first address on his list. Löw is hoping to bust somebody today.
So now it's just a waiting game. Some crimes are easier to explain, If you've been drunk, got in a fight, maybe you hit someone. Everyone can relate to that and understand maybe. But buying sex, it's a shameful crime.
In Sweden's capital, Stockholm, there's no red light district anymore. That's partly due to Simon Häggström, the Swedish police force's senior expert on prostitution. For years, he's been campaigning for stricter laws across Europe. Laws like the ones in Sweden.
We have to ask ourselves the question, what would a situation look like if it was allowed, if it was legal to actually buy sex and to actually run a brothel? Then we are most convinced that the situation here would be a tragedy. Because Sweden is a rich country, there is a lot of money to be made. From 1999 up until today in Sweden, we have not had a single murder on a woman in prostitution.
Back in Helsingborg, stationed in various cars, Matthias Löw and his colleagues lie in wait.
We have a potential customer right now.
Anyone caught leaving a sex worker's place faces a heavy fine based on their income. Repeat offenders can end up in prison.
The 4th apartment, top floor, from the left. So we're right on location.
While his colleagues bring the suspected customer to police headquarters, the woman is questioned as a witness. The man paid her the equivalent of €130, which she'll later get to keep.
And we have to secure some DNA from him. And we're also going to have to take the bag where she stored all the condoms and everything.
In this instance, the woman is not from abroad. The 50-year-old Swede was selling sex out of sheer desperation. She was trying to pay off tax debt her ex-husband left behind.
I only try to earn a bit of cash doing this now and then. During the day, I work at a call centre. The clients often look around the apartment nervously. They know what they're doing is illegal.
And she described a customer for us, so we have the right guy. So, yeah, it was a good bust.
Then a social worker who's been called to the scene offers the woman help to get out of prostitution. That's also part of the Swedish model. Even clients can get help in Sweden. For instance, from social worker Marie Johansson. She's had people aged 18 to 90 approach her because they want to stop buying sex. And some ask for help in preventing themselves from starting in the first place.
There are men who call us and say, I think I'm on the way to buying sex. I need help. And the fact that they're seeking help to stop it before it happens, that's a very positive development.
We're in a suburb of Stockholm. The address is kept anonymous. The women behind the nonprofit Talita have drawn the ire of many sex buyers. That's because Talita helps women out of prostitution. The women from Talita can't fathom Germany's liberal laws on sex work. They're convinced that the Swedish model is the right one.
It's really a great success because it changes the way the society look at women in prostitution. We know in Sweden that if we don't have this law, we can't talk about equality, because the way you look at a woman in prostitution, that says a lot about how you see women in general.
Ever since she stopped selling sex, Anna Lidén has been trying to combat the idea that prostitution should be normalized. Her boyfriend at the time used violence to force her into selling sex.
Between the age of 17 to 23, I sold sex 4 or 5 times a week, and 3 to 8 men every day.
She believes the Swedish law is an important first step, but says stronger enforcement is needed.
But just because we have a law that says you aren't allowed to buy sex, the problem doesn't go away. And all the politicians are doing is increasing the punishment from getting a fine to getting like a small prison sentence. But I don't think that men are afraid of getting caught.
Back to St. Pauli in Hamburg. We meet sex worker Undine de Rivière at a photo exhibition about sex work. The Swedish model would be her worst nightmare. It angers her that in Germany, more and more people want to ban buying sex.
In places where the demand is prohibited, the customer structure changes. That means those who don't want to break the law might try to make do with buying less sex, or they'll go elsewhere, and only those who are okay with breaking the law will remain. Which means that effectively you're only dealing with criminals, because lawmakers have made it that way.
She's thankful for Germany's liberal legislation. It's meant she's been able to officially call herself a self-employed sex worker for over 20 years.
When people get to know me, they see that I like my job and really have fun doing it. But then they always say, yes, but you're the exception. What about the poor other people who have been trafficked, and so forth? I always find it really hard to explain or get across just how broad the spectrum of people's realities are.
While in Germany, sex workers themselves disagree over legislation, in Sweden, the majority of people support the ban on buying sex. Matthias Löw is back at Helsingborg's police headquarters. The alleged client, who's been arrested, is still awaiting questioning. But in the meantime, they've finished collecting forensic samples at the sex worker's rental apartment.
I don't have any feelings as Matthias Löw when I'm working, but for them, the ones who buy sex, I don't feel very much actually. I feel more for the girl who is put in a place where maybe she doesn't want to be.
The suspect continues to deny all the accusations, but the DNA sample will likely be enough to convict him in court.
I believe tonight when me and my team will go to bed and we look ourselves in the mirror, we think that we have done difference for someone today. And I think that's the feeling. We have to break down the game in small episodes, and we want to win every small episode.
Then Matthias Löw ushers the suspected client out. Whether that was his last visit to a sex worker is uncertain, even in a country with laws as strict as Sweden's.